Good afternoon. Thanks to the organizers for this important panel. A reflection on a Christian perspective regarding the role of faith in promoting peace and reconciliation is certainly timely and needed. As we look around the globe, big and small conflicts, but all producing many victims, have prompted Pope Francis to say that we are experiencing a third world war in pieces. Non-state groups, in particular, appeal to religion to justify their violent methods to gain power. On the other hand, believers point to the basic values promoted by religion to argue its constructive role in the pursuit of global peace. In fact, for a fair understanding of the contribution of religion and the way such a contribution is provided, religion needs to be looked at in the context of today's societies. Social scientists and the analysts had anticipated the disappearance of the influence of religion as a consequence of the steady progress of secularization. But at the beginning of this third millennium, the reemergence of religion in the public arena and an international public life has taken a forceful dimension. Two examples that support this claim are the expansion of Pentecostalism around the world that in its various expressions embraces hundreds of millions of people, and the attempt on the part of some Islamic groups to establish a religiously based and guided state, the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant. On a more restricted scale, the European courts had to address several cases dealing with the public expression of religion, the crucifix in the public places, the appropriate dress for women, the wearing of religious symbols. For believers, religion is seen not as a resisting modernity, but as preventing ultra-modernity from dissolving into a self-destructing critique. Increasingly, religion provides identity and offers to individuals the possibility of social integration and direction within individualistic and pluralistic societies. At the same time, distrust of religion continues. Institutional religious belonging diminishes, and yet the feeling of spirituality is on the rise. Religion has gone public in different kinds of global contexts, in mass migrations where believers advocate humane policies and offers immediate assistance, in the media, where the many facets of religion and its social consequences are debated. Religious restrictions and hostilities, the negative side of the coin, has also increased, affecting 77% of the world population. The gap between proclaimed principles of religious freedom and the possibilities of its exercise by people is widening. The results from this situation range from violent oppression to subtle discrimination, and they become an obstacle that prevent coexistence, social integration, and the development of a common future, the flourishing of society. Before the contradictory development of a growing public role of religion and a growing discrimination and persecution of people of faith, a question arises. Is it intolerant religions or intolerance of religions? The way forward, the most reasonable people propose, is that of dialogue, both among religions, with society and culture. The preliminary assumption is that mutual knowledge can overcome prejudice, create trust, and highlight common beliefs and concerns. A second assumption is that human reason is not antagonistic to belief, but it can add and thus lead to a better understanding of the role of religion and of its social implications, while benefiting from the content of the message and wisdom their religions carry. The choice of dialogue, therefore, follows a reasonable and useful methodological approach. Today, the Christian tradition proposes the choice of dialogue after a long and tortuous historical journey that has led to opt for a nonviolent way to resolve differences. First of all, the will of most Christian communities and cultural groups, of Jews and Muslims, of other religions, to dialogue and converge their efforts toward justice, fraternity, peace, and human growth is a sign of hope, a sign of the presence of the kingdom of God. Christian leaders in particular have commented that only through dialogue will we be able to eliminate intolerance and discrimination, and that interreligious dialogue is a necessary condition for peace. Especially where religious and ethnic diversity and competition are endemic, interreligious dialogue is important in promoting reconciliation, tolerance, and peace. 3 steps could be considered for a comprehensive understanding of dialogue as an instrument of peaceful coexistence: the principles that justify dialogue, the practical ways dialogue is carried out, and the consequences for society of dialogue as a method. The social doctrine of the Catholic Church recognizes in the unity of the human family and in the common equal dignity of every person the starting point for any ethical consideration regarding solidarity and peace. The ethical demand of respecting everyone's dignity and of collaborating for the well-being of the entire human community requires the adoption of peaceful means in resolving differences, and dialogue is the preferred way. As stated by Maritain, peace will not be possible without the respect of the basis of common life, of human dignity, and of human rights. The promotion of a culture of encounter, one that is open and fruitful with the other, demands that we be ready to listen. Aware that today we live among a wounded humanity, Pope Francis believes that the motivation for interreligious dialogue must rest in the mutual commitment to peace and justice, thus making them the basic principles for all exchanges. He adds, "I appeal forcefully to all those who sow violence and death by force of arms. In the person you today see simply as an enemy to be beaten, discover rather your brother or sister and hold back your hand. Give up the way of arms and go out to meet the other in dialogue, pardon, and reconciliation in order to rebuild justice, trust, and hope around you." The doctrine obeys, or the principles on which rests the new type of relations with believers of non-Christian religions, for the Catholic is found in the 1965 Vatican Council II document, Declaration on the Relations of the Church with Non-Christian Religions. The Catholic Church rejects nothing, this document says, that is true and holy in these religions. She regards with sincere reverence those ways of conduct and of life, those precepts and teachings, which, though differing in many aspects from the ones she holds and sets forth, nonetheless often reflect a ray of that truth which enlightens all men. Finally, in the discussion of principles, it is urgent to apply the legal concept of citizenship to all people of a country without structural discrimination supported by constitutional arrangement. Any member of the national community should have the duty and the right to take full part in the life of his respective country. Government is to see to it that equality of citizens before the law, which is itself an element of the common good, is never violated, whether openly or covertly, for religious reasons. Nor is there to be discrimination among citizens. It follows that as wrong is done when government imposes upon its people by force or fear or other means the profession or repudiation of any religion, or when it hinders men from joining or leaving a religious community. And this is a quote from the documents of Vatican Council. The way to dialogue effectively starts with an attitude of openness, love, and sincere search for the truth. A multiplicity of initiatives have been taken in recent years. Some we have heard just before. Encounters at various levels among religious leaders. For example, that called by John Paul II in 1986 in Assisi, when 160 religious leaders spent a day together with fasting and praying, and they represented 32 Christian religious organizations and 11 other non-Christian world religions. Or those between families of different religions, to change experiences, to exchange experiences of faith at the day-to-day life. Participation in religious feasts of other religions, and so forth. At the institutional level, the emphasis on dialogue has seen the development of specific structures that systematically carry out study and outreach to different religions. For example, in the Catholic Church, there is a department in its central government dedicated to this purpose, the Pontifical Council for Interreligious Dialogue, established in 1964 and charged to foster friendly relations with the followers of non-Christian religion. Dialogue is the best antidote to the temptation to religious fundamentalism, which is a threat for followers of every religion. Dialogue dispels fear of the other and constitutes a particularly suitable means of favoring a better mutual knowledge. Dialogue demands respect for the other as he is. Above all, respect for his faith and his religious conviction. In this way, the consequences of dialogue will be not only positive, but capable of transforming attitudes and behavior. Education will reflect a spirit of collaboration and mutual understanding. Textbooks should be a sponge of incitement to hatred and disparagement of other religions. As such, peaceful and creative coexistence becomes possible. In conclusion, in our globalized and diversified world, dialogue has become a necessity more than a choice. In a social context of freedom and equality, the role of interreligious dialogue is to make converge the treasury of values from all religions without prejudice and fear, to support the individual's freedom of conscience in the search for truth, to promote peace as the condition for the flourishing of human society. In this way, the dignity of the human person is safeguarded, and the other is no longer a threat, but an enrichment. Thank you.